Darksiders. There's two types of people in the world. People that know what Darksiders is, and bitch-made boys. Now I'm not here to point fingers, only educate. Darksiders came out on January 5th, 2010 and it really fit in well with games popular at the time. It has a great story element and a cliffhanger ending that, to be honest, got me hyped as fuck as a kid. The combat can get a bit stale, but I'd say it's definitely worth one playthrough. I'd also play Darksiders 2 and 3, but me personally, I wouldn't bother with the fourth one. It disappointed me greatly, and that's all I'll say. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have some really special to me for you guys, and is actually my favourite game ever made to me, and it still holds up. So I hope you enjoy. It will be a platinum video, so stay tuned, see if I can get all them trophies. Let's get started. There are 43 achievements in this game, 22 of which are story achievements. That leaves 21 optional trophies, which isn't too bad, to be honest, considering 3 of those you unlock at the end if you play through automatically on the hardest mode. We start out the game with a whole city full of humans stopping and staring at what seems to be a meteorite alert, and BAM! Demons start ripping arseholes and giving names before we fall out the sky like a goddamn main protagonist. A little bit of backstory for context. Basically, since the beginning of everything, heaven and hell have waged war on each other, until the council forced a truce on both sides because the kingdom of mankind was born. So they made a deal to wait until we got enough power and technology so we could stand on our own feet when the fighting starts again. But some dickhead broke the 7th seal, which basically kicked off the whole thing early. Hence War, the main character, and one of the 4 horsemen showing up for what he thought was his job. Okay, you caught up? Let's go. We quickly deal with the first couple demons and then move on to the bigger demon. Though he looks scary, he's a little bitch compared to us right now.
Let him get up.
Once making our way further up the street, we acquire our first trophy, open air parking, which we had to destroy a helicopter in the beginning of the game, which is a really easy one to miss, so I'm glad we got it. After killing dozens more of angels and demons, we lose a whole bunch of health for plot reasons, and finally confront Abaddon. But do you remember I mentioned at the start of the video about a dickhead who broke the seals? Yeah. This is him.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Before we can get any answers though, he gets absolutely annihilated, and we're forced to fight a massive demon named Straga. This isn't difficult for War though. We use cars to knock him down and deal damage, and eventually stab Straga in the eye. Straight after though, we lose almost all of our health, and that gives Straga the edge to win. This time. After we're defeated, we wake up in front of an angry council, accusing us of starting the whole thing. Obviously, we deny it, and even offer to go back and punish the ones responsible.
Send me back. I will punish the ones responsible.
The council agrees, but not before assigning us a watcher. That sounds suspiciously like the Joker, but maybe it's just me. We pick up War's sick-ass sword, underpowered of course, and finally crash back into a post-apocalyptic Earth. We end up landing in a vacant and decrepit parking garage and discover what's left of the human race. The wicked are the closest thing to humanity left on Earth, forced to wander because they couldn't cut it for the rapture. But, fortunately for them, War's here to end their suffering. After easily disposing some of the wicked zombies, we ascend up the building through an elevator shaft, having to beat a couple more enemies to progress further through, and eventually we reach the courtyard. Here we meet Vulgrim, and he's gonna work as our merchant for the entire game, using the souls we collect as currency. But first, we need to do something for him. Having already taken all the souls we've collected so far, we ask him about the destroyer and he points us toward the tower in the distance. But before we can go, he tells us there's no way there on foot. He says there's another way, but if we want him to tell us, we need to collect a bunch more souls. So we do that, and it's only 500, so it doesn't take us too long. But before talking to Vulgrim again, I collect my first artifact, and these are littered all across the game, so I need to be on the lookout for them constantly. Vulgrim gives us the wind caller to open the door, and also tells us to seek out Samael, because he knows the way to the Destroyer. We get 2 trophies here, Death Dealer and To Move a Mountain. After we wake the sleeping giant, we go through the door and come to this massive floating island surrounded by lava. This is where Samael is being held and the main center point for the rest of the game. It's guarded by this massive axe demon. However, after roasting the shit out of him, War picks him apart and finishes him with his own weapon. He talked a lot of shit for someone who went down that easy. With him dead, we free Samael and unlock another trophy. Samael wants us to help him escape, and in order to do that we need to kill 4 Tower Guardians and bring him their heart to restore his power, and only then will he help us. War begrudgingly agrees, and Samael gives us the Shadow Flight ability so we can traverse the land towards Tiamat, the first Tower Guardian. We also get a trophy for picking up the Shadow Wings, boosting the total trophies to 5. We pick up 2 armor pieces from under and opposite Samael's prison, and we get on our way to the first Tower Guardian. Eventually we arrive at a cemetery and find Vulgrim has a shop in the centre. After purchasing our first sword upgrade and weapon reinforcement, we head towards the exit, only to find it blocked by another giant. To free him, we're forced to complete a series of challenges in the Shadow Realm. It doesn't slow us down though, in fact, it gives me a chance to work toward a few trophies. Once we reach the 3rd trial, we unlock the High Flyer achievement for killing 5 dusk bats without touching the ground. A very easy one to miss, so I'm glad we could grab it here. After beating all the challenges, we do some more sword upgrades and head back over to the giant. Now that it's free, it immediately steps aside and even rewards us with an enhancement for all the effort. Continuing our journey, we eventually reach the Broken Stairs. Here, we find another Vulgrim location, upgrade our sword once again, and pick up a Lifestone shard. Pushing a little further in, we're ambushed by a massive demon that needs to be dealt with before we can move on. Good thing War isn't built like a pushover though. We make quick work of it, unlock the knife gate with the key, and are immediately thrown into a cutscene. A group of angels appears, and for a moment it looks like War might escape, but they spot him, of course, forcing us to flee by jumping onto a phoenix and killing its rider.
Get the fuck out of here!
While escaping on the phoenix, there's also a trophy we have to earn here, since it can't be reset if we fail, so getting it now is crucial. The requirement is simple. Kill everything that moves on screen. The target is 160 enemies, which doesn't sound like much, but in the short time you're given, it's actually pretty intense. Thankfully we managed to pull it off. We escape the angels through the cave and arrive at the cathedral, where the first Tower Guardian, Tiamat, awaits. Before we can even choose a place to land, the bitch decides she wants a snack and snatches the phoenix straight out the sky. We crash down just in front of the cathedral, and before heading inside I pick up the scythe so I don't have to come back for it later. Once we're inside the cathedral, there's a lot to get through before we can face Tiamat and claim her heart. The place is packed with puzzles and enemies that need to be shredded first. For some reason though, this section took me forever as a kid. I always found the layout confusing, but maybe it's just me. After fighting a shit ton of enemies to get the light swords, finding a few secrets, and a new weapon along the way, which did in fact give us a trophy, we eventually reach a puzzle room with 3 sword holders. We have to go through 3 different areas stemming from this room and collect the sword from each one. This isn't difficult, as only 2 of them are puzzle rooms and the other is a combat encounter. With the 3rd sword in place, the platform ascends into the courtyard, opening the door to our first victim.
As the council reduce the horsemen to common assassins. Because if you offer Satyr Rider, perhaps we can strike a deal.
You won't like my terms.
Tiamat is the first boss fight in the game and is surprisingly tougher than you'd think, especially on this difficulty. She starts with an aerial attack, launching fireballs at us and trying to hit us with her claws from above. We hit her with the new trick we've learned though, using the crossblade, and she falls out the sky, giving us an opportunity to hit her. We do this a couple more times, and when she recovers, she reverts into melee attacks, coming at us straight on, with fast slashes, dive bomb attacks, and quick time events. We obviously dodge everything like motherfucking Goku, and continue to stagger her until she finally falls. After brutally tearing off her wings, Tiamat begs for her life. War humours her and asks if she can restore the balance. She can't, so we take her heart and immediately unlock the like a bat out of hell trophy.
No wonder Samael wants this thing. It's coursing with power. You really think he's going to let you live long enough?
With the heart secured, we attempt to leave but quickly realise we flew here and have no way back on foot. That leads us to Vulgrim, who offers access to his serpent holes in exchange for a look at Tiamat's heart. War isn't too thrilled, but he agrees, and we gain the ability to fast travel to already discovered Vulgrim locations. We travel to Samael to give him his heart, and he sets us on the path towards the second Tower Guardian, the Griever, but before we can get to him we need to find the Black Hammer. Right before we go though, Samael helps War unleash his Chaos Form ability, an ability dormant in War that the Watcher has been suppressing, and this allows us to unleash a big and chaotic version of War for a couple of seconds. We also pick our 11th trophy up here. Armed with our new ability and a bit more power, we set off on the treacherous journey towards the Griever's lair and in search of the Black Hammer. Along the way we end up at the Drowned Pass, and after poking around for long enough, we run into our third door blocking giant. Just like the others, he's got some bullshit lined up for us. Once again, we're faced with 4 shadow challenges scattered throughout the area that needed to be completed before we can move on. Doesn't take us long, and once the giant finally gets the hell out of our way, we push on until we reach Anvil's Ford, a place with a massive hammer planted in the centre. War, thinking he's finally found the Black Hammer, tries to lift it and immediately eats shit, lacking the strength to wield it. That's when Ulthin shows up, and we learn that the Black Hammer isn't the weapon, he's the one who forged it. And Ulthin doesn't take kindly to War putting his hands on his stuff. A fight breaks out and we're forced to use our Chaos Form just to even put a dent in him. Before a winner can be decided though, they're interrupted by a squad of angels led by Uriel, Abaddon's main squeeze, who's still pissed about him dying by the way. I mean, it was 100 years ago, get over it. War decides he's done listening to the monologue and kicks off the fight with him and Ulthin teaming up to fend off the angels. Naturally, they turn it into a competition to see who can rack up the most kills. This section can be pretty rough though, especially on Apocalyptic mode. The angels that shoot end up being a nightmare to deal with. That is, right up until you pick up Redemption, an angelic weapon that absolutely deletes anything it's fired at. It takes most of the difficulty away.
Okay. Do you want to play rough? Okay. No. Say hello to my little friend!
Before long, we carve our way through the angels, win the competition with Ulthin, and snag ourselves 2 more trophies. We aren't done though with the angels. There's one more, and you guessed it, it's stupid bitch from before. We fight her and win, but spare her life, and the angels retreat. After all that, Ulthin still doesn't fully trust us, but points us in the direction of the Griever anyway, saying if you kill it and make it back, that'll be proof that War is who he says he is, or at least enough for him.
Now get off of my property before more pigeons come looking at crap in me yard.
Oddly enough, we bump into the Griever straight away and have a mini fight using the Redemption Angel gun. Obviously she runs away because why would it ever be that easy, and we follow her to her lair. Further into the hollows, we come across our third weapon, the Tremor Gauntlet. This allows us to break the blue crystals here and all around the map. It also allows us to push movable objects with force and can launch enemies flying. We also pick up another trophy. With enough poking around, we finally reach the Griever, and here we can put our new gauntlet to the test, having to break crystals off the track and launch a train cart at its legs to continually cripple it. We do that a couple more times until War gets impatient and smashes the Griever's head in with the train cart, keeping it still long enough for us to get our second heart out of its chest.
Stop! He's already dead!
We immediately go back to Ulthane, and this time we question him on his role in the apocalypse starting. He doesn't want to answer us and changes the subject, giving us Mercy, our brand new sidearm. So War pushes further, and he still doesn't want to answer our questions even after being threatened. War leaves it, and Aura farms his way out of the room.
Do I look like I'm afraid of death, boy?
It's not death you should fear.
We also get a trophy for picking up Mercy. We travel back to Samael to give him his heart. From there he sets us on the path towards the third Tower Guardian, the Stygian, a giant grotesque worm with sharp teeth and tough skin. Before we go though, Samael grants us an understanding of the chronospheres, giving us the ability to slow down time in certain areas to help us navigate the Ashlands. We also get a trophy for picking up the Chronomancer ability. Before setting out to defeat the Stygian, I take a moment to grab a few collectibles now that I've got the Tremor Gauntlet. There aren't too many, but it saves having to backtrack later. We set off on our journey to defeat the Stygian and eventually reach the Dry Road. Here we earn another trophy for killing 10 enemies with the Blade Geyser. The Ashlands. Covered in the ash of the dead, War must traverse the landscape using chronospheres and platforms to avoid the worms and at the same time fight a horde of demons while progressing through the level. Thankfully, in this section there isn't many puzzles, so we can breeze right past most things with relative ease. Eventually we walk straight into a coliseum with hundreds of demons in the stands waiting for a show, so we don't want to disappoint them. War starts killing demons on horses left and right until eventually the big boss bitch tries to fight us on her own horse. It doesn't help him though, and after a while we knock him off Ruin and put a Chaos Eater through his chest, decimating him and claiming our horse back. With Ruin at our side, we annihilate every demon in our path, cutting and carving our way forward until we finally reach the Stygian. And if it wasn't already obvious, this one dwarfs every other worm we faced. Once we get close enough though, it escapes and the fight starts. Before we can deal any real damage, we need to tear the massive metal guard from the Stygian's face. This part's fairly easy. Using Mercy and Ruin, we stay just ahead of it and unload shots straight into its mouth. The real challenge of this fight is dealing with the Stygian's offspring. They're far quicker than the parent and can soak up a surprising amount of damage from Mercy. The key is to always keep a few dashes in reserve in case they get too close, while constantly pressuring them with damage. It doesn't take long for the Stygian to fall, and once it does, War goes on the offensive and leaps into its mouth from Ruin, destroying it from the inside, claiming our third heart. When we reach Samael, he's done with the small talk and points us straight towards the fourth Tower Guardian, Silitha. Located beyond the Ashlands, we must use Ruin to make the journey and cross a soul bridge to her area. Right before we leave for Silitha, we unlock another trophy. We journey towards Silitha, crossing the soul bridge and riding down an empty valley until we reach a point we can't cross on our own. That's when Silitha's children find and capture us and drag War into her domain. After escaping the web, we break a chest and unlock our next trophy for searching 150 chests. The Iron Canopy is Silitha's lair, a towering web-covered structure suspended above the ashlands. War is forced to fight through narrow platforms, vertical pathways and constant ambushes from Silitha's children. This area is littered in puzzles, and in order to progress we have to defeat 4 large gate spiders and 1 massive gate spider, each guarding a seal that must be destroyed to push further into the canopy. We also unlock the abyssal chain here, which allows us to swing and grapple from point to point like motherfucking Batman. To fight the gate spiders, you first have to tear their protective shells away before they can take any real damage. Once exposed, they become extremely fast and unleash a barrage of high damage speed focused attacks. After taking out all the smaller gate spiders, we finally move on to the massive one. He isn't especially difficult, he just hits hard. He switches between close quarters attacks and trying to suck us in from the centre. The strategy is, grab a web body and throw it while he's sucking us in. That stuns him long enough to get behind and chip away at his shell. We repeat this a few times and he eventually falls, clearing the way to Silitha. Before fighting Silitha, I decided to do a little bit of leveling up for the Tremor Gauntlet, as I tend not to use it much. At long last, the 4th Tower Guardian is here. Silitha is quite different to the other bosses, even though she has a pattern. She doesn't fight like any other enemy in the game. Not only does she teleport, but she can go invisible, melee attack you, and stick to the ceiling. This fight, even though unique, is fairly easy. The strategy is dodge as much as you can and get damage in as much as you can. The goal is to keep staggering her until she jumps up on the ceiling and casts a ring of hoops around her that we can grapple onto to get her and knock her through the floor. Once we're finished ripping our last heart out of Silitha's chest, we pick up our next trophy and we do a quick sweep of the Iron Canopy and around the rest of the map in areas I can now access with the chain. We head back to Samael and finally travel to the tower and face Straga. When we hand over the heart, Samael consumes it and regains all of his power. He then gives us a portal to the Black Throne, finally concluding our deal and freeing him permanently. Once arriving at the Black Throne, we are immediately met by a nervous angel named Azrael, the Angel of Death and Keeper of the Well of Souls. He tells us that the wells must be shut because that's where the Destroyer is hoarding his power from. So we agree to help him, but only if he takes us to Straga after to run that fade back and shit in his one good eye.
Straga, you will take me to him.
Aid race, and we get to work restoring the power to this room. In order to do that though, War must solve a bunch of puzzles involving soul beams, which only get harder the higher we climb. We also pick up the Voidwalker here, a piece of equipment that allows us to fire portals on stained glass and go through them. We also have to take out 3 Well Guardians, which hit extremely hard on this difficulty. The strategy to beat them is to utilise the portal gun and stained glass in the arena, getting him close enough to the portals and getting on top of him, disabling his shield and allowing us to do damage. After powering up the second skull, War finally learns who is truly responsible for starting the apocalypse. It turns out Azrael and Abaddon secretly conspired against Hell, planning to win the war and pin the blame on them. All but one of the 7 seals were broken, and of course, the final seal was the Horseman's.
Heavens against that of the Prince of Lies. Now do you see?
The problem? War showed up anyway, taking the fall for the entire catastrophe. Ulthane also played his part, forging and supplying the only weapon powerful enough to shatter the seals. Enraged by the truth, War refuses to carry out the Council's orders any longer, but the Watcher won't let it end there. Whether War likes it or not, we're forced to keep moving until the Destroyer is dead, along with everyone else responsible.
We're not done until you find the Destroyer and shut him down. Balance, remember?
So, forced to continue by the Council, we take out the last Well Guardian and restore power to the last skull, finally moving on to Straga.
He's the mightiest of the Destroyer's chosen.
And the last. Your master chose poorly.
The strategy for Straga is fairly simple. All we do is use the Void Walker on his club, and when he raises it up for a strike, we portal onto his back and hit at his weak point. The rest of the time is basically just dodging when he attacks or fighting minions he summons. Once we do this enough times, Straga finally falls and we unlock our next trophy for killing him. We don't have time to celebrate though, as the tower starts to collapse around us. Azrael saves War and brings them to Eden, a land that was thought lost.
Eden doesn't exist. Not anymore.
We find out Azrael saved Eden and hid it away, fearing the tree being in the wrong hands. Here, we have to visit the Tree of Life and find a way to defeat the Destroyer, but before we can enter, we have to kill a shadow version of War that has been marked onto us by fighting the darkness so long. We also pick up the Mask of Shadows, which allows us to peer into the Shadow Realm as much as we want to. This also gives us a trophy. After beating the shit out of War's evil Shadow Twin, we cut off his head and make our way into Eden. We make a few treasure/collectible pit stops, finding the last piece to the Abyssal Armor, which gave us a trophy. We're finally ready to go see the tree. Once we get to the tree, it shows us a vision of what's happened and what's going to happen. We learn that Abaddon, aka the Destroyer, after he died was made a deal: serve in heaven or rule in hell. Obviously we know which one he picked. He guards the seventh seal and protects it from being broken. The council also knew that we were innocent, but sent War anyway because they knew he would be eager to prove his innocence, and they needed someone to kill the Destroyer. We also learn that Uriel will lead the Hellguard into battle and ultimately fail. The Watcher also betrays us, but who seriously didn't see that coming? At the end of our vision, the tree gives us our gift, and it is the hilt of the Armageddon Blade, the only weapon powerful enough to kill the Destroyer. Only problem is, the sword fragments are scattered across the map, and we need to gather them all up and bring them to Ulthane to reforge it. But first, we have a lot of trophies to catch up on, especially on the collectibles, so I'm gonna take the time before the end to fill all these out. After going through all the collectibles, we start gathering up the Armageddon Blade pieces and eventually run into Uriel again. This time she comes alone and challenges us to a 1v1 to the death. War agrees and they start fighting. She is a bit more powerful than the last time we fought her, but at this point I am a walking tank, so I can't really lose. After beating her, War spares her life for now and tells her that Abaddon is the Destroyer, that he was betrayed and fell. Also, he says to keep their death deal in mind, because someone has to die by the end of it.
Remember the death oath. Soon it must be fulfilled.
We take all the pieces to Ulthane, and he reforges them into the Armageddon Blade, unlocking another trophy and making us fully ready to take on the Destroyer. We also unlock another trophy for upgrading all the weapons. Now this is the moment we've been waiting for. Finally, we ascend to fight the destroyer and take our revenge. The strategy for the destroyer is simple. We use Rune to chase him around the arena and wait for him to go on the attack. As soon as he does, we do some medieval knight javelin shit and knock him off his feet, allowing us to get damage in. Once we've done this enough times, he starts to attack from the sky as well. War can't do any damage while he does this, so we need to wait it out. Eventually, we're able to grab onto him and knock him out the sky, transforming him back into a more gothic version of his old angel self. Here we fight him for a second time under the arena. Once under the arena, Abaddon's attacks change. He becomes more aggressive and has a bigger range. All we have to do is keep dealing damage and not die until we reach a quick time event. After succeeding, he rises up and launches rocks from above. We do this a handful more times until he finally falls and we unlock the rest of our trophies, finally achieving the platinum.
You have taught me something, Abaddon. Sometimes duty must be cast aside to do what must be done. It is not for duty that I kill you now. Uriel.
Reap what you have sown, betrayer.
Before you go, I'll give you the treat of watching the Watcher die. He gets his head squished by War, and then he delivers one of the fucking best cliffhangers in probably, at least in my video game fucking history. I've been waiting for this fucking next game for years. And it's coming out soon, so I'm really excited. Expect a video on that. I hope you enjoy. Have a nice day.
I haven't forgotten.
You will be hunted. The White City for certain. The Council, and there will be others. You would wage this war alone?
No. Not alone.